Welcome to Vacuum Wars. This week, I decided to do something a little different, and instead of testing Dyson and Shark vacuum cleaners, I bought pretty much every Dyson and Shark hairdryer. I then put them through a ton of tests over the last few weeks and gave them scores based on their specs and features, and put it all into a giant spreadsheet to see if I could determine which one of these was the best. So, links in the description, and let's get started. First, the basics. On the Dyson side of things, I bought their new Supersonic Nural model, the regular Supersonic model, which comes in a gold or rose color, as well as the first generation Supersonic model, the hot pink one. On the Shark side, I bought the HyperAir, which also comes in two different colors, and the Shark SpeedStyle, which only comes in one color, but there is one version with a diffuser and one without. I also bought one of the best-selling budget models in the style called the Cosy, so that I could have something to compare the more expensive ones to. Starting off with the price, the Dysons are significantly more expensive than the Sharks. The Sharks are about half the cost of the Dysons on average. The Cosy, the budget model, is literally 4 times cheaper than the most expensive Dyson. It wouldn't be a Vacuum Wars video without testing their power, so I tested their airflow with an anemometer on all of their power settings, where I found that the first generation Dyson had the most airflow and the Cosy had the least. But that's not how I scored this category, because it's not so much about how much air can it blow out, but how much variation of airflow does it have, because certain attachments work better with different speeds, and so the more options you have, the better. The Cosy, for example, had only 2 airspeed settings, where the others had 3. Also, the first generation Dyson supposedly has 3 airspeed settings, but over and over in our tests, we found that there was no difference between its max power and its medium power, and its low power was way higher than the others. So when all that was adjusted for, the actual winner of the power test was the Dyson Supersonic, followed by the Dyson Supersonic Nural, with the Sharks behind the Dysons and the Cosy last place. I tested their noise level on all the power settings. I consider this important since you're basically holding it right next to your ear for long periods of time, and here again the Dyson Supersonic was the winner and the Nural was a very close second place, which I thought was impressive because those two had the most airflow, and usually the products that have the most airflow are necessarily louder, so the engineers at Dyson must be doing something right. Another important thing is their weight. I weighed them without the cord or attachments and found that the first generation Dyson was the lightest, with the Shark HyperAir being the heaviest. I also measured the length of their cords and found that the 2 newer Dysons were tied for the longest cord at almost 9 feet, where the Cosy had the shortest cord at just a hair over 6 feet, no pun intended. I also measured their temperature on all of their power settings. I set them up facing a target with their standard blower attachment exactly 6 inches away from that target. And then I used a laser-based infrared thermometer to measure the heat reflected on that surface. This reading is not the same way that the manufacturers measure heat, so take it with a grain of salt. The results were interesting though. I found that on their max heat setting, the Cosy got the hottest at 150 degrees, followed by the Shark HyperAir, with the first generation Dyson, the hot pink one, being by far the weakest. Here again though, the issue for me was not so much about how hot they could get, but how much variation in temperature could you achieve. So I based my temperature score on variation, and found that the Shark HyperAir was the winner, followed by the Dyson Supersonic, where the Cosy and first generation Dyson were essentially tied for last place. The Cosy because it only had 2 settings which were wildly different, and the first generation Dyson because all 3 of its heat settings were much less hot than the others. I did test each one of these hair dryers by actually drying wet human hair with the different attachments and timing it, but I didn't end up scoring that because I found that the test wasn't very scientific because there were too many variables, but I did have a good time seeing how the different attachments affect the drying area of the hair with the infrared sensor. Moving on to features and attachments. As far as features, they all have something called a cool shot button, where you press it to instantly stop the heating elements and so cool down the area very quickly. All 3 Dysons and the Cosy use magnets to connect their attachments, where the Sharks use a kind of locking mechanism. Interestingly, all of these use a pretty advanced negative ion feature to dry hair, which breaks down water molecules on the hair, allowing for faster dry times and the reduction of frizz. They also all have some form of auto heat adjustment, which monitors and adjusts the temperature to prevent overheating. The newest Dyson, though, the Dyson Nural, has a lot of unique sensors and intelligent features that the others don't have. For example, it has something called Scalp Detect, which measures the distance between your hair and the hairdryer, automatically adjusting the air temperature to protect your scalp. It's also the only one equipped with a motion sensor, so it knows when you set it down, ensuring safety and convenience. Another thing is that the Dyson Nural can sense which attachment you're using, so it will automatically adjust the airspeed and temperature settings. You can also manually adjust these settings, and it will remember what your preferences are for a given attachment. Most of them came with some kind of diffuser, which slows the air and widens the heat signature for more even, gentle drying. The Dyson Nural's diffuser was a little more advanced than the others and had essentially two ways to use it, one of which enhanced curls and wave patterns in hair. All the Dysons also had a styling concentrator, a wide tooth comb attachment, a gentle air attachment, and a flyaway attachment, which Dyson says harnesses the Coanda effect to lift longer hairs and hide flyaways for a particular styling effect. The Shark SpeedStyle came with a unique attachment. It has a quick, smooth brush and a rapid gloss finisher, which I think is similar to Dyson's flyaway attachment, as well as a standard concentrator. But there's also a SpeedStyle package that includes a diffuser as well. So, after adding up all these scores, which one of these came out on top? The Dyson Supersonic Nural was our number one pick based on these results, but it was followed very closely by the standard Dyson Supersonic and then the Shark SpeedStyle in third place. The Shark SpeedStyle is also our budget pick, as it did achieve this high score while being about half the cost of the other two. Links in the description to all the winners, and let me know in the comments if you want me to review the Dyson Airwrap versus the Shark FlexStyle and all the competitors, or if you just want me to go back to testing vacuum. Subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave, and thanks for watching.